Show of hands, how many of you even knew where Georgetown was, or is? Okay, we're getting better at this. This is good. So the 11th comprises Georgetown, South Park, and parts of Beacon Hill. We are honored to be hosting this tonight, and I will allow the other hosts to come up here and say hello. Thank you very much.
Welcome, my name is Marcee Stone-Vekich. I'm chair of the 34th Legislative District Democrats. The Kickin' 34th is in the house. Thank you very much. This was a real pleasure to organize, one of the smoothest organizing efforts I've ever seen, which is really amazing because it was 3 different LDs getting together to do this. So I'd also like to give a nod to Carl Dion, the chair of the King County Democrats. He really was the father, if you will, of this idea, in that the LDs in the city would come together and sponsor forums in both the south end and the north and central area of the LDs. So thank you all so very much for being here. We have information in the back about the 34th, and if you want to know more about the Kickin' 34th, please do. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcee. My name is Michael Wolf, and I'm the chair of the 37th Legislative District. And the 37th Legislative District comprises of neighborhoods from Madison Valley to the Central District, Mount Baker, the Rainier Valley, unincorporated King County, and Skyway Hill, and down into Renton. I want to welcome everyone to this forum, and first, before we continue, I'd like to thank some of the members of the Planning Committee that I see here tonight. Maria Ramirez, thank you. Catherine Island, are you in the room? Kathy, there you are. And Ted Barker, are you here? Ted, thank you. And the people that I'm now forgetting, thank you also. Mike Heavey, that's who I'm missing. Mike? Thank you, Mike. And now, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Ciara Douglas from Fox Q13 News.
So some years there's a very boring mayor's race. Do you remember 2005, Al Rentie versus Greg Nichols?
Yeah, I remember.
But other times it is an interesting race, and this year, of course, is one of those. You know, actually 4 years ago was a pretty interesting race, thanks largely to Mike McGinn, who really made that something to pay attention to. And this year, thanks largely to Mike McGinn, we have another one. Mike's had an interesting day, and we will get into that news, no doubt. But we are going to kick things off, not with stump speeches, but with some more personal stories. The whole idea is to get to know these folks a little bit more. So tonight, we decided to ask them what the moment was when they decided to run for mayor. Were you sitting at a meeting? Were you with your family? Were you in the bathroom? I mean, what triggered this very momentous decision? We will go in alphabetical order. 90 seconds. Tim Burgess, your first. Stand up.
Thank you very much. Well, my moment lasted about a year, starting about 12 months ago or so. And I realized that as a council member, I couldn't do certain things. And I was most concerned about the slow pace of reform in our police department. And I realized that to really transform our police department, I'd have to be the mayor of our good city. And then people started talking to me, city employees especially from all city departments, encouraging me to run. Small business owners from throughout our neighborhoods were talking to me. Tim, we like how you listen. We like how you look at the facts and evidence. We like how you like to bring programs that have been successful in other cities to our city. And then early November of last year, I sat down with Jolene and our daughters, Elizabeth, Kim, and Katie, and it lasted for a couple of weeks. We weighed the pros and cons of running for mayor of the city that we all grew up in. And finally, at the end of the day, I decided, after weighing the pros and cons and looking at what I could bring to the mayor's office, decided to to act on my core instinct, which is public service and helping people. And it was the week before Thanksgiving that I finally decided that, yes, I'm going to offer myself to the voters of Seattle and try to win this opportunity to represent them at City Hall and restore our pride in city government.
Why you don't represent black?
Bruce Harrell.
Blacks here too.
Well, when I was a student at the University of Washington in the latter 70s, both my parents worked for the city. My mother with the library, my father with the city library. And I worked for the city council. And I will tell you that I decided back then, and I publicly stated, that I would run for mayor. I said after I was ready professionally, I figured then at some point, hopefully, the city would be ready for me. But then what happened during the summer of 2010, when the woodcarver John T. Williams was tragically killed by one of our city employees, one of our members of the police department. I watched I was astounded by the political cowardice that I saw from elected leaders to denounce that kind of act. I was listening to the public discourse about this, and it was determined in some of the discussions that he was less than a human being. And I didn't think so. And then I witnessed something that was miraculous. I witnessed a city that can heal and try to move forward. And it started with the love from his mother, and from his brother, and from a community. And that healing process that I believe Seattle can have with a strong, inspirational leader, an authentic leader, is what I believe is the opportunity we have in front of us. So it was based on those events that I said, now is the time for Bruce Harrell to run for mayor. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Kate Martin. Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. So the moment that I think was the moment when I thought about. Okay, it's.
Can you put it closer to your
Okay.
mouth?
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. The moment that I think I decided that this was something I was going to do was back in 2011. I ran for Seattle School Board. I ran an incredibly grassroots, low-budget campaign, and I came out with over 70,000 votes. I lost by a really small margin, and I realized that the things I was saying were resonating with people. And so the whole process was just super fantastic process. So I thought to myself, I've spent 10 years wrapping my head around public education, and I put myself out there to run for school board. But then I thought a little bit more about it, and I thought, you know, I've wrapped my head around so many different things at the city. I've been an activist for about 15 years. I'm a planner and designer. I'm a mother of two grown sons, 22 and 20, and through all those lenses, I thought I could take all my experiences and I can bring them forward. I mean, I'm a policy wonk, I'm a business wonk, but I'm also kind of visionary. I see things in my job and I just move forward towards them, so I'm hoping I can just convince 35,000 of you to go ahead and vote for me again. I've got my filing petition here. I hope that you perhaps will think about helping me do a grassroots version of getting on the ballot. And I appreciate your moment with me right now. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. The moment it became clear that the working class would have no voice in this election, the Socialist Workers' Party, of which I'm a member, decided to run. Myself for mayor, John Nover for port commissioner, and Edwin True for city council. We run to provide an alternative to the big business interests represented by the Democrats and Republicans. We present immediate demands for relief of the working class and also a long-term program in order for workers to take power out of the hands of the capitalist class in this country. In face of the worst economic crisis since the 1930s, we call for a massive public works program, federally funded, to put millions to work building the things we need: roads, schools, hospitals, infrastructure. This is something we have to fight for. We also, in face of the ongoing attacks on women's right to choose abortion, we say no restrictions, no waiting periods. Our campaign doesn't stop with the border of Seattle or King County or Washington State. We stand with the dock workers in Vancouver and Hong Kong, and with workers around the world fighting for their rights. We urge everyone to go to the May Day marches for immigrant rights. We say no human being is illegal. Unionize and organize all workers. No to E-Verify. Thank you very much.
Hi, you all know I was really engaged in my community. I was a volunteer in the Greenwood Community Council. I was a volunteer in the Sierra Club for years, and I made the decision, in fact, it was so rewarding and fulfilling, I made the decision to quit my job as a lawyer and start a nonprofit which focused on the city of Seattle. And so in that job, I had a really intense interest in who would be mayor, because that would be very important to achieving the things I cared about, on the environment, on equity, on sustainability. And I was looking at that mayor's race in 2009, and I had policy differences with Greg Nichols. And I was debating who was I going to support as a new mayor. And I was waiting to see who would step forward. In fact, I think some of the people on either side of me thought about it then, but didn't run. And it occurred to me, biking home at some point, I said, I could win this race. I checked in with people who I'd run the successful No RTID campaign with, the successful Parks Levy campaign, and they agreed. But the real thing was, what was very appealing to me about running was you could really get things done as mayor, even more so than I could get done as an advocate. And advocacy is important. And you know what? We have gotten a lot done. Doubling the Families in Education levy, fighting coal trains, divestment, protecting our budget in bad times, working with community members around the city to work on our economy, working with the police department on reform, creating a community police commission so that members of the community are part of reform. So what made me run and what made me think about it was the ability to get things done.
Well, Tim was right and Bruce was right. It's more than just a decision, it's a bit of a process. I think Bruce mentioned college or high school. Well, for me, it was actually the first time I thought about running for mayor. I was a kid in West Seattle, a little pandering to West Seattle. I read about a progressive mayor named Wes Allman, who just come from the legislature. But seriously, a few years ago, I looked at this, and there were things I wanted to get done in Olympia. Things like restoring the transit that Tim Eyman cut out of the budget through his initiative. Things like marriage equality. And this last year, people told me, you got to get out there. If you're interested in running for mayor, you've got to do it now. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it now. We're going to do marriage equality first, and then I'll look at running for mayor. So we made the decision in our family, and I made the decision, because I looked at a city that has huge challenges. And I have spent 18 years working on huge challenges in Olympia, from civil rights to transportation. And I want to be the mayor that turns this police department around. That more than any other issue affected me. And the problem with the police department can't be put simply at the feet of the current mayor. We need a change of leadership, and we need leadership that will not only address the problems of the police department, hire the chief we need at the executive level, but will also ensure that the council offers the oversight that we need to make sure that we reform the police department.
Hi, I'm Charlie Staadecker, and first of all, look at this room. This is inspirational. This is what Seattle is all about. There was no split decision quickly why I decided to run for mayor. It evolved. It started certainly with the tunnel, parking rates, police, safety on the streets, and it kept piling up. And this wasn't the legacy that I thought we should pass on to my children and our grandchildren. I saw a city hall that was divisive, polarized, combative, and I thought what should lead Seattle was just the opposite. So it was easy to kind of sit on the couch and say nothing. But something happens, and I'm sure it's happened to every one of you, that there's a core value that you stand up for and you believe in. That's what happened to me. It was time to speak. It may sound corny, but it's very personal. It It was a vision of standing at home plate in a baseball uniform, and my father and grandfather looked at me. And I'm sorry it's gender biased, but that was the dream. And they handed me a bat, and they said, "Kid, it's your time to step to the plate. It's your time to pass the legacy to your children and grandchildren."
Hello, I'm Peter Steinbrueck, candidate for mayor, and thanks to the 3 legislative districts, this is a great first start for the truly public campaigning that is beginning tonight for the future of Seattle, which is what this is about, which is what I've thought about for a long time. I can't say that I rolled out of the crib and decided I was going to run, I needed to run for mayor. No, it has been a long in coming. I've spent a lifetime of civic involvement, activism, my family as well. I spent 10 years on the city council, and the events of last summer, with almost a year of secret negotiation with a private investor that led to a unilateral decision to place a sports facility in the heart of the Duwamish Industrial District, was over the top for me. That was when I decided that we could not see the pitting of our family wage jobs, our maritime economy, which is the mainstay of this state, not just Seattle and the region, be put at risk for a facility that could go any number of places. Now, I just want to acknowledge that many sports fans, myself and my family included, are disappointed that we will not see the immediate return of the NBA, but a possibility exists that we can bring them back under strong leadership that is independent, informed, and with the right decisions. And so those are the motivating forces for me. I think the city deserves better leadership for the future, the 21st century. We have so much to be proud of in this city, so much to work for, and I think it takes strong leadership with a blueprint for the future. Thank you.
Hashtag SEA Mayor if you want to follow on Twitter. Okay, it is a lightning round. We are going to start with that to get things off to a very, very speedy start. So get your pads out. This is all words and no voices. So we're going to go through about 10 or 12 of these lightning round questions. You will write your answer. You have bad penmanship, announces Ed Murray. You will be judged by that. So anyway, these are, it's not just yes, no, maybe. It's kind of some of these require a little bit of writing. But let's begin. How psyched are you that Ron Sims isn't running? I'm kidding. Okay, so the first real question. Is today's NBA news good or bad for Seattle? And you get 20 seconds to write this answer. When you do, hold it up high so people can see. Good news or bad news for Seattle? As much as you can write, and my guess is, Charlie, people are going to have a hard time seeing that. Yeah, write in big block letters, like Bruce Harrell over there. He's got big block letters. Okay, you have about 3 more seconds, and then whatever is written needs to go up. Ed Murray, that is completely illegible. Hold it up. Neither. We'll keep working. Our day will come. Are you all getting these? Put it out to the audience. Peter, we need you. Okay.
We can't see it.
Second question. Are you a Democrat? Yes or no? This will be quick. How's that? Okay, which past mayor do you most relate to? History. Okay. Norm Rice, another Norm Rice. Charlie's about to put up Royer. None. Landis. Does the recently released SPD video showing Jim Pugil and other officers mocking the homeless disqualify him for the role of permanent police chief? Charlie says no. What are you writing, Peter? What's that saying? Possibly. That's not quite the right answer. I say yes or no. What's
I want Bruce's answer.
Okay. Ed went from possibly to no. He looked at other people's answers. Okay. I didn't tell you either. Is the Seattle Police Department ready for May Day? McGinn, they're working hard to prosecute and jail cops who kill and brutalize working people. Okay. Is the police department in better shape than it was 4 years ago? No. Okay, we're waiting for Tim Burgess, who's got a sentence. Yes and no. We need major transformation. Okay, slightly on the fence there. Quick. What neighborhood, so two-part. What neighborhood do you live in and what kind of dwelling do you live in? Do you live in a townhouse, a single-family home, an apartment? Give us your neighborhood and your dwelling. A consortium of the folks from the 11th, 37th, and 34th came up with these questions. Okay, Ravenna is a co-op, a condo First Hill, the mayor's in Greenwood, Capitol Hill House for Ed, a flex house in Greenwood, a workers' district apartment in West Seattle, Sewer Park, a home, Queen Anne House. Okay, what mode of transportation do you use most frequently? Walk in Seattle, drive in Ole, says Ed Murray. Bike, the mayor, I can't see. Workers need public transportation, cheap gas, metro, auto, kids equals transit. Prius and scooter. Does Mike McGinn deserve credit for saving the 4th of July fireworks show? Mayor, I think I know your answer.
I want to hear how John says.
Wow. Okay. Don't know, no, yes in part, yes, no, thank you chamber, I take that as a no. Mayor, do you deserve credit for saving the fireworks show?
Thank you, Seafair and the chamber for stepping up.
Okay. Did the mayor and council give away too much in terms of height and density in South Lake Union? Did the mayor and council, are they poised, I guess, to give away too much public goods in terms of are they giving away to private development too much in terms of height and density in South Lake Union? see. No. Ed Murray says no. The mayor says we gave and we got. Raise the level of political discourse on behalf of working folks. Yes, says Kate. Possibly no. Council made it better, says Tim Burgess. Okay, a couple more here. Choose one. In regard to coal trains, which is the most important thing to you? That they'll create jobs, that they're an environmental harm, or that they'll block freight? What's the most important thing to you about coal trains? That they'll create jobs, harm the environment, or block freight? They will harm freight? Harm? They will, wow, and we're going to put you through environmental harm. Okay. So your environmental harm, Charlie, your environmental harm, Ed's environmental harm, bad for freight, terrible for the planet, says the mayor. Harm the environment, harm the environment, harm the environment. Yeah. Expand productive capacity under workers' control. Okay, one more in this round. In your opinion, this is a two-parter. What is the best-run city department, and what is the worst-run city department? I love all my departments.
I'm the mayor, I have to.
Come on. Where to go?
Okay, so Peter is the Department of Neighborhoods is best and the mayor's is the worst. Wow. It's an office, not a department, but we'll go for it. Best is fire, worst is police and permitting. The library is the best, police the worst. Mayor has not done anything yet. None. Oh, what did you say? All departments, that's right, sorry. None. Represent workers. Best is transportation, the worst is the Office of Education. Bruce, the best is the legislative department, the worst is the executive department. Echoed by Tim Burgess. Council's the best, and mayor's office is the worst. Okay, give them a round for their life. Okay, we are now going to let you speak again. We have 8 questions for this round, but we're not going to ask you all of them. We're going to sort of group these in 3 so that we don't get stalled on any one topic. So there are 8 questions. You all get a chance to answer 3. You also have a trump card. This is a trump card. Hold up your trump card so we know you have it. If you are dying to get into a question that is not being asked of you, you can hold up that trump card and you can get in that once. So this is the sort of me too, I want in on this question trump card. So the first question, I will announce who they go to so you know if you have to use it or not. This question is first to Kate Bartman and to Charlie Staadecker and then to Peter Steinbrueck. You were the 3 for this. Starting with Kate, what does social justice mean to you? You have 60 seconds. Please stand.
Social justice. Okay. For me, I'm going to take it in the perspective of having been out there being an activist and working with different neighborhoods. For us to achieve social justice, we have to find a way for disenfranchised neighborhoods to be able to build their organizational capacity so they can compete on a level playing field with neighborhoods that are very well organized or perhaps even have staff of nonprofits applying for the grants and projects that they're able to get. We talk a lot about social justice, but I don't see it on the adult level. On the youth level, I'd like to say that I'd like to see us put children way ahead of adults in the future. And what's happening is like 50% of the kids can't read or do math, and so there's no social justice to that. So I'd like to level that playing field as well. Thank you.
Okay, Bruce, we'll let you get it in once the 3 are done. Charlotte, you're next.
I would say the 2 most important things to me, the highest social justice you can do for an individual and a family is to provide jobs for the parents. To have a working wage, family wage job and a sense of pride which open doors of opportunity for individuals and families. The same also applies to education, because education is the big leveler. We have got to change our educational system to allow that we don't have a skills gap. It starts early, and education and jobs would be the levelers to me.
Thank you. Well, first of all, as a prospering city in which all votes are sail in our city, and yet we have a poverty rate of 13%. It's higher than the state average. That's unacceptable. That is not addressing the needs of social justice. I think it begins with school, and thank you, Charlie, I agree with you. When I was in elementary school at Harrison Elementary in the Central District, there was a big sign that said, "Education is the key to the door of opportunity," and a picture of Martin Luther King there. And I haven't forgotten that, and I believe that it is fundamentally, it's where it begins, and it's a way to break down the institutional barriers, the poverty, racism, a divided city. It begins with education. Thank you.
Okay, so Bruce Harrell.
I want to use my trump card prematurely, is that what you're saying? Justice is easy to define. That's just to treat equals equally and unequals unequally in proportion to that inequality. Defining justice is easy. It's what is just is the challenge. I will contend that this is where our mayor failed us the most, where we need him the most, and that is the art of listening. Listening. You arrive at justice by putting yourself in the position of the person talking. That's what the social justice is all about. It's not just that kids are graduating at Franklin or Rainier Beach at the race they are doing. That is unjust. We have to look at it as though we are a parent of that child. So in this justice fight, if you will, I will contend that that's the opportunity that this election presents. Because if we can't get this right in Seattle, I will contend that our country is in peril. The country will look at how well we treat our underrepresented. That's the opportunity we have in this election.
Okay, the next question is going to go to so Tim Burgess, Bruce Harrell, and Mike McGinn. In that order, will be answering this question. Again, if you want to use your trump at any point, we'll note that and put you in at the end. So in a recent study, we learned that those who live in zip code 98108 have lifespans that are shorter by 7 to 13 years than neighbors just a few miles away. What are you going to do about that, Tim Burgess?
This actually relates to the topic that was just talked about in defining social justice. I believe in this old and historic admonition that we love our neighbors as much as we love ourselves. And I think if we approach the common good with that mentality, we can resolve a lot of these issues. In this particular case, in this zip code, we could talk about early childhood education interventions like the Nurse-Family Partnership that the council fully funded on my initiative. We could talk about child care and programs starting at birth, not at age 4 or at age 5 when they enter kindergarten, but starting really early. Those kind of early interventions will reap huge dividends later and begin to correct some of these imbalances that we have. How we approach crime and policing. Another big issue here on this kind of thing. Over half of Seattle's crime occurs in just 5% of our blocks, and many of those areas are areas of poverty in our city.
Okay, Bruce Harrell.
Unhealthy living conditions is unjust, and we have to define it as such. One reason why I created the Great Student Initiative, where we give kids on free and reduced lunch internet access that many other kids do not have, is because that's their gateway to the world. That's justice. One reason why I am introducing legislation to give people who have committed a crime a second chance of getting a job is because they have rehabilitated themselves, many, and we have to have an open-armed approach to reduce recidivism. That is just. We have to start looking at our investment strategy into people. Into people. We will fix your pothole, and we'll fix your traffic jams because it is unhealthy for you. We have to look at our investment strategy as a means to create justice and a health strategy. That's how we raise all the votes in this time. As to any other reason, we have to look at it from a justice standpoint.
Mayor McGinn.
So Poor health outcomes are definitely tied to income and racial background. And here's what we have done. Despite our budget cuts, we preserved human services funding, and we've expanded it when times would get better. We've doubled the Families in Education levy, which includes more early learning opportunities. We had a 375-person wait list. I announced 300 open spots. We have local hire provisions in Community Power Works and the Seawall. We've increased women and minority contracting to record levels never seen before I-200, even higher than before I-200. We have paid sick leave. We have rental housing inspection. We expanded the Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative for our kids. We're going to have 225 kids. If they hadn't waited 6 months to approve it, we'd have 450 more kids in there. This is what race and social justice is about. I've done 120 town halls and walking tours. We've listened to people about what matters to them, and we've acted on them.
Two trump cards. We'll start with Ed Murray and then Kate Barker.
Well, thank you. I think the statistic you heard around health care, my opponents pointed out, it starts in the early years. And let me tell you what we've done legislatively, because I have a record of results. We funded this year, despite Republican opposition, the Obama health care plan. Every child in this state is going to have health care coverage. A Democratic dream since Harry Truman. There is an incredible amount of pilot projects in there that we could apply to neighborhoods like the neighborhood in question. In addition, we've doubled the amount of money, more than once, that the state puts into the Housing Trust Fund that partners with the city and our nonprofits, because housing is the other key part. You have to have some place to sleep before you can get a job, before you can get the health care that you need.
So I think when we talk about sustainability, we spend a lot of time talking about things like the forest and the salmon, but we need to spend more time talking about healthy human habitat, and especially healthy habitat for youth, because we can't have all of this growth and then have kids growing up in super unsafe neighborhoods, super unhealthy food, toxic family situations where they're not getting the attention that they need to thrive. We're finding out that their brain actually gets permanently tweaked from that, and they can never recover from it. So we need to move our programs away from these reactive programs that are at the back end and just realign ourselves to preventative and proactive programs to really stop the problem at the front end. So when we talk about neighborhood planning, let's talk about planning healthy human habitat as well as healthy habitat for the salmon. Thank you.
Okay, for in this order, Mary Martin, Ed Murray, and Charlie Staadecker, what does an ideal neighborhood look like to you? Mary?
I'm for decommodifying all basic human needs, including shelter, food, medical care, education, and culture. In this regard, I'd like to point to the example of the Cuban Revolution, where they've organized a society that's not based on profit, where rents are no more than 10% of income, where there are neighborhood health clinics, and education is based on grades, not on your father's income. And it's for this reason that the U.S. has never forgiven Cuba for making a revolution, for putting workers and farmers in government. And I offer that as an example for us to learn from. It's not a perfect society, but it's a society that's not characterized by want, brutality, and the ravages of the capitalist system. Thank you.
The neighborhood, the ideal neighborhood. Well, I would say it's Alpine when I grew up there. Seriously, my family, 7 kids, working class father, my mother was at home, could afford to own a home. That is a dying item in this city. I could walk to school, I could walk to the beach, I could walk to the park. We could get on the bus to go to the junction to shop. That's what a livable neighborhood is. That's the type of neighborhoods that we need to create throughout Seattle.
Yeah.
The ideal neighborhood. The ideal neighborhood is one that you are proud of. It's clean. You can walk at night. You feel safe. Your neighbors feel safe. It's affordable. But most of all, there's a special nature in Seattle, and it exists whether you're in Mount Baker, Rainier Beach, Ballard, or West Seattle. You identify with that neighborhood. There's almost a polite competition that we used to have. If you look, Ed, where did you go to high school? Here? Lacey. So we've got Lincoln, Garfield, Lakeside, Franklin. Those were neighborhoods we were proud of. Those are neighborhoods that can come back. A mayor can do that, city council can do that. It has to be affordable, clean, and you have to feel proud and safe.
Okay. I'm trumping this one. Seattle is a mosaic of great neighborhoods, but they don't all share city services equally and supports, and that needs to change. Many have deficits, many have great assets. We need to balance that better. So for me, it's walkable, livable, complete neighborhoods is what to strive for, and it's where, as Ellen Durning of Sightline is fond of saying, where your daughter, who's 8 years old, along with her friends, can walk to the library in the early evening and return home safely and without fear. I think that's one of the best indicators. So it's good schools, it's strong, walkable, clean, safe, and humane neighborhoods. And that's what we need to balance better in this city. Thank you.
Okay, for Mary Martin, Tim Burgess, and Kate Martin in that order, which should come first, transportation or development, and do you support impact fees?
I don't like the question. What I'm talking about is the most serious things affecting working people in this city. There was one idea raised that, well, workers should live near transportation. There are thousands of workers in this city who are making $9.50 and $10 an hour in temporary jobs, and they get laid off regularly. So even if there is a metro system by them, they will be constantly moving to try to live near their next job. There are many workers right now out on strikes, lockouts. I want to mention the workers at this picket line I visited, Belshaw, Automatic, and Auburn. There was 120 of them. Now there's 60 of them. They were asked to do the work of 120, and they're on strike, and they deserve your support, as do every time there's workers locked out or on strike. I urge you to visit them. Belshaw, Automatic, and Auburn. Thank you.
Tim?
Well, I think they should happen simultaneously, and that's one of the problems we have in Seattle today, is that our development has sometimes overreached our infrastructure. We're just now, 4 years after light rail opened to the airport, we're just now starting to think about what we should do for zoning around the light rail stations in southeast Seattle. We should have done that 4 years ago at the same time we were building light rail. By the way, that's a justice issue too. And the reason that this question goes with the previous question about what makes a good neighborhood, we want economic diversity in our neighborhoods, we want racial diversity in our neighborhoods, and making sure that we're doing infrastructure at the same time that we're allowing development is a good thing. That's what the council did with South Lake Union. The mayor's proposal maintained the status quo, would not have allowed any more affordable housing in South Lake Union than what we've had since 2001. The council has raised those fees dramatically on developers so that we get more workforce housing in the neighborhoods where the development is taking place.
I would agree with Tim that transportation needs to be concurrent with growth. You don't grow and then think about the infrastructure that you need to go along with it. I mean, we're seeing the fallout from that. Now let's just take a look at the different modes of transportation. We have over 2,000 miles of street edge in Seattle without sidewalks. So that's a transportation system that we're severely lacking. I mean, people can't even get the healthy walk around the block that they need. And then you turn around and you say, what's another mode? Let's talk about freight. It can't move through this city with what, we're not even allowing them space in the right of way to keep business moving through this town. So there's another one that's not working out with the growth. Or the bus, when the number 8 takes an hour to move from Denny Way up to Broadway, that's another transportation system that's not working. So let's decide how we're going to use that right of way, get it moving. We don't have to, every time, we don't have to turn around and spend $200 million a mile on light rail to begin to solve our transportation problems. So let's get on it.
Okay, the next, I believe we're now to the next question. No one trumped that, right? Okay, so this is for Bruce Harrell, Peter Steinbrueck, and Mike McGinn, should we move Nicholsville? And if so, why and where? Bruce Harrell.
Yes, and if you haven't picked up on my reoccurring theme, that is, a city is judged by not only how it nurtures its smartest and its brightest and its most innovative, but how well it protects its most vulnerable folks. Now, these folks do not have a lot of money. Obviously, they're homeless, and we know what causes homeless. There's sort of 3 batches of causes: mental illness, people down on their luck, many people having drug and alcohol problems. But I don't like people living in a condition where there's drug-infested or rats and there's no water hookups. We can do better than that. Okay? That is subsistence living. And quite frankly, throw politics out of the window and say we can do better than that. So now we have to strategically look for the right location, make sure the outreach is there, and we have to get creative. For example, in other cities they have vans that have showers on them. We have to think outside of the box. But that is not a place where I'd like to see our most vulnerable cohabitate.
Well, I feel that we should not have to endure Nicholsville in the first place. We should not have people living in tents on the ground during the wet, cold seasons of the year. And it's not a matter of just moving it from place to place. But the answer to your question directly is yes. No neighborhood should endure indefinitely those kinds of conditions, nor should the people who seek shelter have to endure those kinds of conditions. I think we need better solutions for homelessness. And this is one of the most prospering cities in the country. If we cannot do a better job of meeting the needs of the poor, and that's largely what homelessness is, the cause of homelessness is poverty. And if we can't do a better job, we certainly shouldn't tolerate those kinds of conditions. This is what gave rise to Yesler Terrace when Hooverville predominated, was the original kind of Nicholsville in the Duwamish Tide Flats. And at that time, they sought better housing, and they built better housing, stable housing with support services, job opportunities. That's what we need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, we've worked to increase our budget for homelessness, particularly family homelessness. We need to move families and children out of that situation as fast as we can. We do have a problem in that there are people who do not want to go to shelters, and they prefer the autonomy of having their own place, and it is a tent. So in our first year, we made our Fire Station 39 available as a temporary encampment. We submitted legislation to council to make it easier for churches to host encampments. We also submitted legislation to council that looked at creating a city-run, attached to services type of encampment in the appropriate types of areas. Council never acted on that legislation. We've sent down similar legislation to look at having rezoning for industrial type lands to see if we could create a better situation. I don't believe the situation there is tenable. I think we're going to have to find a way to change it. But at the same time, I need the city council to step up and help me give me some options, because they haven't done so to date.
Okay, for Kate Martin, Ed Murray, and Peter Steinbrueck, if elected, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be known for? Kate Martin.
So I was asked this question in an interview today, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. I'd like to be the person who created an inspiring and healthy culture for youth, unequaled by any city in the world. and I have a plan on my website to do just that, so I invite you to look into the details. I'd also like us to stop focusing our jabs of spending money in a way that I describe as disjointed incrementalism. I'm a planner, so I'm looking for us to have a whole that's greater than the sum of the parts, and I don't think we can do that by just kind of jabbing ahead with doing this and then that. I think we have to do a bit more planning. I'm bringing serious attention to the idea of the waterfront plan not being adequate. So I'm trying to invite people to entertain the idea of saving the upper deck of the viaduct for an open space like they've done in Paris and New York City. So vision like that, I think that will be my legacy. Thank you.
Ed Murray.
Thank you. I would hope 4 years from now to look back and say that we have improved our public education system. Not because we're the school system, but because we created a brand new partnership. And we would look back and we would say that we've made the city a city that middle-class families, working-class families can live in. And we can look back and we can say that we have integrated our transit system and we've moved Sound Transit forward to the next piece of it. Those are just some of the things that I hope that we could do. I'd like my legacy to be that we could actually get things done and that the bickering and the divisions in city government that have gone on for years would come to an end. The mayor mentioned that he's been trying to get the council to deal with a piece of legislation, 9 council members, to deal with a piece of legislation related to homelessness. I had a committee that I chaired, the Transportation Committee, that had 29 members, 29 versus 9, and I got them to pass the largest transportation package in state history. So the things I outlined that I would like to do as part of my legacy, I think I could do. Thank you.
Well, the first legacy that I would like to leave is to restore trust and confidence in our government and all of the departments, and especially public safety. The long-term needed reforms that we know are needed must be addressed as one of the first priorities. Beyond that, I believe that the longer term is that we have to be a regional city and we have to be a local city, which is to say that we need to balance the growth pressures with some 150,000 more people moving to Seattle over the next 15 to 20 years, and significantly more job growth that is driving that. It has to be balanced with quality of life, and it has to sail all ships in Seattle. So it's about a city for all. It's about preserving family wage jobs in this city so that we do not continue to become the city that is divided between the rich and the poor. That is one of the most important things that I think we could do. Finally, stronger, complete neighborhoods where the assets are the strengths of every neighborhood and the deficits are eliminated or minimized, which is to say that the city does a better job of serving our great neighborhoods throughout the city. Thank you.
Okay, Charlie Staadecker is going to use the front card.
The legacy of this city does not rest with one person. It will rest with all of us. I think if you look today, there is no Aladdin's lamp. There's no magic bullet. The cavalry isn't coming. Federal government is sequestered, and we are going to get less and less money for our infrastructure. The same is true with the state. There is a lot of pressure financially. What are we as a city going to do over the next 4 to 8 years? We are going to have to collaborate among ourselves, and much like Jim Ellis did in the 60s, we have to bring to the voters a forward thrust that protects our city. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We are unsafe. We've got potholes, streets that where pedestrian crossings are obliterated. If we don't take care of this, we are going to pass a debt to our children that they never expected. We can do this together.
This is worse than the 60s.
Okay, for Charlie Staadecker, Tim Burgess, and Bruce Harrell, why do you think Seattle has the worst gender pay gap in the U.S., and how will you address it?
First of all, I will confess, I was not aware as a city that we were the worst in the United States.
Yes, we are.
Therefore, if women aren't being paid, if there's a glass ceiling, that has to be through education and skills. We have got to have equal skills and equal pay. Does the city need to mandate that? I think that would be a mistake. But I think that it is based on very much education, expanding the opportunities both in biotech and life sciences. And I wish I had a clearer answer for you on this one. I think it takes a city that where employers recognize the value of women to succeed as much as men. Thank you.
Tim Burgess?
Well, if everybody had daughters like I did, the problem would self-correct eventually. But this report came out just a few weeks ago, and it's obviously very discouraging. And I don't know all of the factors that contribute to that in our city, but it goes back to education. And I'm a huge advocate for early interventions. And we should start at birth, not at age 5 or even where Head Start begins at age 4. But it also requires an acknowledgement of the problem. And kind of like Charlie, I just learned about this a couple of weeks ago when that report came out. And we, I think, pride ourselves that we're making progress on issues like that. And obviously we have a long ways to go.
Okay, Bruce Harrell, and then I'll answer that question. So the question is, how many more questions are there for those who still have a trump? So there's this question and then one more. So for those who have trumps, that's Bruce.
Don't start me yet. The answer is simple. Institutional practices. We haven't paid attention to the institutional practices. Now, here's the difference between the mayor and myself. When I read the report, I immediately went into action. I've asked the Seattle Women's Commission to develop a work plan with me to look at the policy changes we have to do. Now, the other thing that happened is, years ago, a woman walked into my office when I was a practicing lawyer, and she says, I work at Boeing and I'm underpaid for my colleagues. And I met with several women. That meeting turned into a class action where I started a class action representing all the women. And I'll tell you, my candidacy is about that when I look at these injustices that occur. And it's not like a lot of folks are saying, hey, let's smoke a cigar and discriminate against women. That's not what occurs. What occurs is we don't pay attention to the patterns and the disparate impacts. So we need a proactive leader that's willing to be bold enough to propose new solutions. And the STEM programs, my colleague Tim is absolutely right. That we have to look at the pathway to success for everyone, and women are now getting into these fields as my wife had. So we have exciting opportunities, but it takes intent.
Okay, the final question for Mike McGinn, Mary Martin, and Ed Murray. What's your biggest professional regret? Can't wait to answer that one.
That's what Mike McGinn.
Mike McGinn, you're first.
I'm first.
And I may have to trump myself on this question. Right? To get this one right. You know, I don't know. I've really worked hard. You know, there's the John Lennon song, "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." You know, and I just always focused on trying to work in the community and get engaged. And I was really, you know, as a lawyer for 13 years, maybe that was a little too long, because what I found was my Sierra Club work and neighborhood work really mattered. You know, and I came into this job, you know, all the fire. Really wanted to create a lot of change as fast as I could. And I've had to kind of go to mayor's school. Now, like I said, there isn't a mayor's school. You have to do it. And we've dealt with a lot of challenges there. And I guess I wish I could have climbed the learning curve a little faster than I did, but I'm going to keep working on climbing that learning curve. And I think we've made great progress in this city, too. And I'm glad I ran for mayor. I'm glad I'm mayor. I'd love to have the job again. And I guess my commitment to you is I'm committed to being a learning mayor and keep doing everything I can to do the best I can by you.
Mary Martin.
Capitalism teaches us that the highest level of life is to have a career, to have wealth, to look out for yourself, to amass as much as possible. What we're raising is a life that's dedicated to advancing the needs of all of humanity, including at the center of it, the working class, which makes all the wealth but does not get to decide how it's used. Hegel said being determines consciousness. A person who lives in a hut thinks differently than a person who lives in a palace. Ask the poor truck drivers in Seattle what their greatest regret is. They don't have a bathroom where they can wash their hands with water before prayers and before meals. This is the kind of issue that we're talking about. Malcolm X was asked, are you trying to wake up people to their oppression? He said, no, people know they're oppressed. I'm trying to wake up people to their humanity. The Socialist Workers Campaign and all our candidates are calling for workers to run the government and on the way for fights that increase our confidence and our capacity for unity. Thank you.
Ed Murray, biggest professional regret.
Well, this is the most difficult question I've had in 18 years. And it really has two parts. The Defense of Marriage Act passed on my watch. And in 2005, after many, many years, 28 years of trying to get this LGBT civil rights bill up for a vote, it failed by one vote. And then that one was really painful because my father died 2 weeks later, and I wanted him to live to see that. In both cases, they were professional defeats. And they were professional defeats not just for me personally, because I had to come home and see the pain and hurt in my constituent eyes as I waited year after year after year for justice. But luckily, thanks to them, they held in there, and my lowest moments became their best moment when R-74 passed in November.
Okay, back to something between a lightning round and full answers. This is the test your knowledge of the sponsors segment. So we're going to start, so 2 people answer each of these questions. So this first question is for Bruce Harrell, Charlie Staadecker. You have 15 seconds to respond. It's a very short. Did you want to trump the last one?
Well, I wanted to trump back to an earlier one.
Excellent. You can use the trump then. You didn't use it.
I didn't use my trump.
Yeah. So we'll go back to your, so this is your second chance at a professional regret answer.
No, I'm coming back to another one. I may have regretted that professional regret answer. Who knows? No, that answer is clearly, just learning on the job, and I can probably point to a number of things I regret. But I want to speak to something, because there are a lot of people speaking about the police reform issue tonight, and I just want to set the record clear on that. You know, when the Department of Justice came to town, I inherited this police force, and I take what's going on there very, very seriously. And through my record, I hope you can see my commitment to race and social justice. Police Officers Guild, they wanted us to fight to the death, litigate to the end. There were others who wanted to take the first offer that the DOJ gave us to show that we cared. What I did was I worked to negotiate and get a reform package that worked for Seattle's needs. And one of the things we did, and I negotiated this personally, was get a community police commission that has the most severe critics of the Seattle Police Department on that commission with police officers and with other community leaders. Because I trust our community working together is the best source of solutions, and that's enshrined in the agreement. And we are committed to achieving those reforms. And I've been endorsed in this race by many of those people who called for the DOJ investigation, because they know they have a seat at the table, and that I'm committed to giving them one. Thank you.
Okay, back to the How Well Do You Know Your Sponsor segment. So this is for Bruce and Charlie. You get 15 seconds. I'll start with you, Bruce. Are you a member of your legislative district, and which one?
I'm a member of the 37th, originally joined the 43rd as a young person, but I'm a proud member of PCO in the 37th district.
Charlie Staadecker.
Born in the 37th, currently of the 36th.
Okay, for Kate and Peter, which legislative district do you live in, and when does your legislative district hold its monthly meeting? Kate Martin.
I'm a member of the 36th LD, and it's the second Wednesday at PNA.
Peter.
I'm actually a member of two legislative districts, the 43rd and the 46th. I've recently moved to the 43rd, and I attend as many meetings as I can. Usually they're on Thursdays in the 46th, and on Tuesdays, I think, in the 43rd, down the street from my house, where I can walk to my legislative district.
Pretty good use of 15 seconds. Okay, Tim Burgess, Ed Murray, what is your legislative district and who is the chair of your legislative district? Tim Burgess.
I live in the 36th, and I'm a member, and Jeff is our chair, and I'm also a member of every other Democratic legislative district inside the city of Seattle.
Ed Murray. Yeah.
I have lived in the 43rd District for 28 years. I've been legislator there for 18 years. And the other part of the question is who's our chair?
Who's the chair?
Scott Forbes.
Okay, to Mary Martin and Mike McGinn, how many legislative district meetings did you attend last year? Mary Martin.
I'm a member of the International Working Class. I'm a factory worker. I've been a member of many unions, participated in many union organizing drives, and I regularly am on the picket lines to give support to workers as far as possible. And I urge people to read the militant newspaper to keep up on working class struggles internationally.
Mike McGinn.
Sure. I'm a member of the 36. I've been there 2 or 3 times in the past year. And I think I've made it to just about every other LD in the city just because I'm mayor and I want to be out there and do Q&A with folks and make sure they have the opportunity to have access to me. So I'd say 7 or 8 over the past year.
Okay, let's start with Peter, go all the way down, 15 seconds each. On this question, we want to know you. What is the most surprising thing on your iPod?
I don't have an iPod, but... Well, you might find me holding up a big plate of homemade pizza.
How about the most interesting app on your phone?
Oh boy, the most interesting app. Oh gosh, there's so many interesting ones. Well, I like One Bus Away because it helps me.
One Bus Away, okay.
It helps me to know what's going on.
Charlie, what's the most interesting thing on your iPod?
Well, I actually have a naked girl on my iPod. An hour ago, my wife and I were blessed with a baby granddaughter.
Well, then I have the app for you, but you'll need to change it just a little bit. The app I have for our new puppy is iPod Train app. So just adjust it for your granddaughter.
Okay. I decided I needed to figure out what was going on in Seattle, so I started listening to Blue Scholars, Macklemore, Motown, other local bands. And I probably wouldn't have if I weren't mayor, but they represent the city. And the apps I have, my favorite is Seattle Rain Watch. You can get a 1-hour precipitation forecast. They call it the Soccer Mom and Dad app. You can see what's going to rain on your field.
Okay, Mary Martin.
I think it's important to talk to people face to face. Our campaign goes door to door throughout Seattle, Kent, as far as we can drive, to stand with workers, to find out about what they think, to write articles for the militant newspaper. I don't have an iPod, but that just puts me in company with millions of people in Africa and Asia who don't have electricity and who deserve it.
I do not have an iPod. I collect vinyl, and I'm very well, I invite you anytime to come spin records. Apps, I have a BlackBerry, so of course that crashes the BlackBerry, so I don't have apps.
Bruce Harrell.
Well, no iPod, but a smartphone. I've sort of a bizarre thing on there. Sounds a little morbid, I guess. But I have an app that's called estatesales.net. My wife and I, we just go around to these estate sales. It's the coolest thing to do. I get all my fishing gear from these estate sales. So it's sort of a hobby we can pick up. I'm sure I'm going to lose some votes for that
So I don't have an iPod, CR. Those are kind of old. But little picture of my 15-month-old daughter. And I have this little app that tells me all about my granddaughter, yes. I either lost a lot of votes or won some, right? My granddaughter. And then I have this other cool little app that tells me the progress of my oldest daughter's pregnancy, who's in her 4th month. And that little child is the size of an heirloom tomato right now.
Okay, well, we got to know you. That was fun. We're going to go again. One more sort of get to know you round, 15 seconds. Peter, what's the best way to get to know you as a candidate?
Come make pizza with me.
Come make what?
Pizza with me. Yeah.
Pizza?
Pizza.
From
From scratch.
pizza?
That's right.
Excellent.
Yeah, homemade pizza. Come over and have some pizza.
Charlie?
I would say that I built my entire reputation on authenticity, and if you would just ask anyone who knows me, ask about the qualities of Charlie Staadecker.
Best way to get to know me, I like to talk a lot. My partner would love if you talk to me, and you get to know me, and I'll talk back to him.
That's great. Get to know me as a candidate. Look at my budgets that I've submitted. Budgets are moral documents. You come on a walking tour with me out in the neighborhood. I really do love listening to the public, being with them. And I stand up and I hold the city accountable for what we do. Willing to stand up for city employees too. Let them know they go out there and do hard things. The mayor's behind them.
I urge people to march on May Day, whatever city you can march in, Yakima, Salem, Portland, Seattle, not only with me, but with thousands of workers saying no human being is illegal. Unionize, organize, no to E-Verify, stop busting up families, get rid of the Tacoma Detention Center, unify the working class.
For the campaign, call me or have coffee with me, invite me over. But I'm serious about the vinyl collection. I think it's a great way to get to know me. But my husband's a fantastic chef, so we could spin records and have some dinner with Jose.
I'd say please come by my campaign office on 23rd and Union, right there in the Central District. That's where we are. I say imagine with me. Imagine a new Seattle. I'm very serious about creating a new beginning in this city. We've squandered a huge opportunity, and the stakes are very, very high. Come by and have coffee with me, take a walk.
Best way to get to know me is go back and look at my wife and daughter, and I have 2 other daughters, but I think they'll give you a reflection of who I am. And then look at my reading list on my city blog and see what I'm reading, and that'll give you a clue as to who I am as a person.
Okay, as we close out, we're going to do one more lightning round and then give you all closing statements. So get these pads out. You're going to have 20 seconds to write as legibly as possible. Should the city pay the police union president's salary? No. You know what the audience thinks. Okay, no, what's Bruce? Your no, prosecute jail cops, the mayor's no, Ed's no, so that was unanimous. No one wants that. Okay, 3-part question, yes or no to each, so just ding, ding, ding. Should Seattle annex White Center? Should they annex West Hill, Skyway area? Should they annex the Sliver here in South Park? Should Seattle annex White Center, West Hill, and the Sliver? 3 different answers. Okay, Charlie is yes, yes, yes. It looks like you are maybe, Peter. Ed's a yes, but depends. Yes, yes, yes. For Kate, yes, yes, yes. No, no, yes. Okay. For workers and farmer government. Farmers government, replace capitalism. Okay, name 3 of your trusted advisors. 3 of your trusted advisors. We want full names. Okay, Ed, you're done, so let's get you up first. So Michael, your partner, Martha Cho, and Wayne Ellers, former Speaker of the House here. We have, the mayor is doing it again, so Karl Marx, Malcolm X, Fidel Castro. So Kate, you're Scott Shin, Michael Beard, and Crystal Dixon. Bruce, you are Monisha Harrell, Jason Bennett, and Jeremy Rocca. Tim is Norm Rice, Emily Walters, and Adrian Quinn. Charlie's my wife, my wife, my wife. Who is here, right back there. Neil, Ben, and Mason. I know Ben and Mason and your kids. Who's Neil? Someone. Neil Powers? He's in the room. Okay. Do we have Tip Takuda, Peggy Lynch, your wife, and Norm Rice? Did I get you all? We didn't necessarily say that order. Okay. Which endorsement so far in this race is the most important to you? Give us your individual endorsement you're most proud of and the organizational endorsement you're most proud of so far in this campaign that you've already received. Give us an individual and an organization that you're proud to have endorsed you so far. Okay. To be received, the people of Seattle, says Charlie. Okay, is it Nancy Malgren? And where's the math? So Ed is HRC, Human Rights Campaign, and Sharon Nelson, your individual endorsement. So co-workers at the factory and the Socialist Workers' Party. Wes Holman and the King County Officers Guild, says Bruce Harrell. Marianne Jones and 6 labor unions, says Tim Burgess. Peter, Estella Ortega, says the mayor, and Unite Here, hotel workers for the mayor. The ILW and Sailors, and Kay Bullitt. Okay, couple more things here. Which 2 candidates will make it through the primary? So Peter, your PS, and Mike McGinn. Peter Steinbrueck and Mike McGinn, says Peter Steinbrueck. Workers lose in bourgeois. Election equals not our turn. So here's Harrell and Waffle, Tim Burgess and Ed Murray. Charlie and Tim, says Charlie, and then Kate, we're just waiting on you. You and Mike and the 5.
The number 5 series.
And the number 5 series, okay. If you aren't elected in November, what is next for you? If you aren't elected in November, what will you do? Okay, so Charlie is take a wonderful holiday. Ed Murray, you are 1 race at a time. Same, work and stand with the international workers' struggle. Mayor, what do you say? Family time, then advocacy and community work. Peter, you say continue my planning work for cities, for the city. Nothing will really change. I have more time for family and work. I never envision losing. Tim Burgess, remainder of council term. Okay, before we close, quickly, what was your favorite part of this forum? The sponsors want to know. The trump card. You used it pretty effectively, I might say. Okay, Charlie, you had fun. It was the humor.
Oh, I had the wrong answer.
Whose humor? There you go. The mayor's got it.
I had the right answer.
Okay, Bruce. I found Tim as a baby. Speaking forward about working class in the vacuum. Tim is the 11th, 34th, and 37th. Peter. New approach, good moderator. Okay, closing statements. You all get 60 seconds. Let me just say you've been very good sports. We appreciate you guys coming here tonight. 60 seconds. We started with Tim, so we're going to start with Peter and go down the line. Why should you be the next mayor of Seattle? Give us your closing statement.
It's about this city and it's about the future of this city. We have lots to be thankful for. We have inequities in our city and we're not sharing the growth and prosperity. We've got major challenges ahead and we're building a light rail through the city with 6 transit stations, a new downtown tunnel, a 520 bridge replacement, and much more. We expect to have 150,000 more people coming to our city. How do we accommodate and balance the growth with quality of life and equity in our city? That's what I stand for, and complete neighborhoods, so that we all have the same benefits and pleasures that this great city has to offer. Thank you.
The two overarching issues that face our city are the personal qualities of a mayor. To me, they are authenticity, trust, collaboration, and integrity. I would suggest that the next mayor must lead with that. And from that core, you have the same qualities you hire to those same 4 virtues. That's number 1. Number 2 is the long-term vision of Seattle. When I announced at Franklin High School, I went on a 4-month listening tour. People said, talk about the long-term vision of Seattle. Here are the 6 key areas: jobs, education, city services, safety, infrastructure, and let's have fun. Life is too short. I promise you this. If you are bold enough and courageous enough to elect me, I will work every day as hard as I can, and I will ask you to bring your A game in return.
This race is about leadership, and I think I have the leadership that this city needs. I have spent my entire public career working to expand opportunities for others. And as we look at housing, as we look at growth, as we look at our transit system, that's what we have to look at. Secondly, it takes the ability to bring people together. And as you know, look at my record. In issue after issue, I've worked on contentious issues with people who disagreed with each other extremely. But in issue after issue, we've turned defeat into victory because we've found ways to bring people together, to bring people to the table, to bring people who were opposed to us at one time to a place where they support us. That's the kind of mayor I want to be, and I look forward to working with you in the next months ahead.
You know, I came out of the community, and this is my first elected office, And we worked to change the debate in Seattle. When I ran, said, why is the mayor talking about education? Isn't that for someone else? We threw ourselves into it, doubled the families in ed levy, launched an attendance campaign, and we're going to have an early learning academy to teach our preschool teachers to get our kids ready for kindergarten. They said Seattle can't do transit. We have a transit master plan approved by the council. We're planning high-capacity transit with sound transit, and we're going to get them to the ballot by 2016. I'd mentioned to you, and you all got handouts of all the socially progressive things we've worked on to widen the circle of prosperity, give more people an opportunity to join in what we do. I've been out in every community, and we've been working to make this city what it can be. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, the Cascade Bike Club, and Unite Here, and they called me in their endorsement, the hardest working people in this town, hotel and restaurant workers, called me the most progressive mayor in America. I want to work with you to make Seattle the most progressive city in America. We're on our way. We can go further. Thank you.
The capitalist system is in the midst of a very deep-going crisis. And it's the working class that is hardest hit in this crisis. And the working class has no voice and no representatives in the government. We're running not just to be elected, although if elected we would use our office, put at the disposal of all workers fighting, but to raise that there are no Seattle solutions. The only real solution is for the working class, once and for all, to remove the capitalist system and put workers and farmers in power. Then we can begin to unify and deal with the crisis that's not of our making, but which we get blamed for and asked to pay for. Why should workers pay for this crisis? Hope to see you all on May Day, and read the militant newspaper. We brought a lot with us. Thank you.
I like to say that I'm bringing my decades-long civic resume, my professional skills in planning, design, and business, and my 22 years of parenting with me down to City Hall, and I invite all of you to join me on that journey. But how will you know who I am? We talk about specific little issues or big issues, but it's not going to be issue to issue. You need to know who I am, and so this is who I am. When it comes to children, I'm a radical. When it comes to healthcare, I'm a socialist. When it comes to the environment, I'm a progressive. When it comes to civil rights and human rights, I'm a liberal. And when it comes to the bottom line, I'm a conservative. I'd like you to help me to make this an election and not an auction. Please do call me, meet me for coffee, tell your friends about me, send me a little check. And join me on this journey. Thank you so much.
You know, there's a reason why 7 people are challenging this mayor. The people want to believe again. They want to believe that a mayor is not just fighting to be right, but fighting for us. And not just us that are in this room, but those who are not in this room. That's the kind of leader I think Seattle is hungry for. Imagine a city where the mayor demonstrates listening ability such that our police officers are listening to our community and they both respect one another. You have to model that kind of leadership, and you have to be authentic about that. That's what my candidacy is all about. I'm welcome in corporate boardrooms and churches and athletic fields and the roughest and toughest neighborhoods. I've walked the talk all of my life, and I think that's what the Seattle is looking for. We believe that we can be better. And so throughout this candidacy, I hope to wake up Seattle, because I'm tired of the same old, same old. Not bad people, but we want to reset the norms on how we look at this beautiful city of ours. It is truly time for change, and we have it in my candidacy.
This campaign is about leadership in our city. Leadership to fulfill the promise to our children that they will receive a quality education, graduate from high school, prepared for college or the career of their choice. It's about leadership to help fulfill the promise to future generations that will protect our environment and not make things worse, like the course we're on now. It's our promise to you that we'll fulfill that you'll be able to get to work on time and get back home again, that you'll be able to raise your family in a safe neighborhood, that you'll be able to grow old and reflect back over life here in our great city. It's our promise to unleash the power of innovation and all of those entrepreneurs that we want to choose Seattle to start their new business, to protect the businesses and jobs that we have. And it's about the quality of leadership in the mayor's office that will restore your trust and confidence in city government. I pledge to you, if you elect me, I will do exactly what I've done all my life. I'll listen to you, I'll learn with you, and I'll lead for you. Thank you.
Okay, we thank the legislative districts for coming up with great questions. We thank those candidates here for answering them. A show of hands of who is a member in legislative district. Wow, excellent. And we hope you all had fun tonight, yes? Thank the candidates.